Hey brother, welcome back to this Making of a Nice Guy series. In this video, I want to talk to you about living in an unsafe environment, growing up where you weren't sure exactly how things were going to go from moment to moment, and how that may have contributed to your development as a nice guy, how this can create a nice guy who is in tune with other people's emotions, other people's feelings, really trying to monitor the environment to see if he's safe or not, and then trying to figure out what he needs to do or who he needs to be in order to please other people so that he can maintain his safety and security. So I want to tell you a story from my own childhood, and then I want to give you an opportunity to tell you your story. I want to give you an opportunity to tell me your story. What did I just say? So, when I was a child, I had an alcoholic mother. Now, I didn't characterize her as an alcoholic. I didn't view her as an alcoholic. I watched a lot of after-school specials, and the alcoholic mother was exaggerated, really a caricature of that idea. But when you look back and you say, oh, my mother drank almost every day. She really was kind of buzzed from noon to nighttime, to bedtime. There were times when she would just wait for the clock to kind of click over until she could start drinking. And there were also times when she would go out and get more alcohol after she had already consumed more than was really necessary. There were times when I would come home from school and I wouldn't know whether or not she was going to be in a good mood, if she was going to be already 3 drinks in, whether she was going to be drunk or not already. I really didn't know what was going to be waiting for me on the other side of the door when I came home from school. In fact, I would get off the bus and I would go to our trailer that we lived in, and I would walk up those concrete steps and stand at the door and just kind of like center myself and grab that doorknob, pull it open and walk in and be like, hey, I'm home. All the time wondering, checking, taking readings. Is everything okay? Is she in a good mood? Is she drunk already? Is she likely to get drunk later if she's not already? And like I said, the caricature of this is portrayed in popular media, but when we live with it from day to day, it's kind of normalized. We don't really realize that that person in our life is an alcoholic, that they're numbing, that they have developed coping mechanisms. She wasn't always an alcoholic, but over the course of my childhood and growing up, she became more and more of an alcoholic. She was actually numbing, she was suffering, she was trying to cope. And I look back on that now and I have empathy and compassion for her, even though that experience of that wasn't great for me indirectly. And that's something that I want to talk to you about today, because I've taken some notes here and I've said, you know what, there were times when I didn't know how the evening was going to go. It could turn into a violent uproar. There could be a 2 a.m. morning. There was even a time in my later growth and development when I was getting ready to leave home, getting ready to graduate high school. I had signed up for the Marines. It was clear that I was leaving home. There was even a time when she turned on me, where her frustration and her anger and her resentment and her suffering, she focused entirely on me, because she knew I was leaving her with that, and my stepfather. I was leaving all of that behind, and I felt bad about that, but I also knew that I needed to fly. I needed to leave the nest. I needed to get disciplined. I needed to save myself. I didn't have those words. That wasn't the vocabulary that I owned at the time, but when I look back on it, that's what it was. It was self-preservation. It was me trying to survive. And she turned on me one night, and I actually had to sleep with my back to my bedroom door to keep her out, because the door wasn't adequately locked to restrain her. And she said all kind of foul things to me and called me all kind of names and told me how terrible I was. But really, it was just her fear that she was going to be alone and that she wasn't going to have me there. And there was a little bit of a codependent relationship there. I say little bit, that's an understatement. There was a codependent relationship there. She was the only person, the only family member that I actually had. I didn't know my biological father. I didn't know my extended family on my other side. My grandparents had passed away, and it was just she and I. And that was scary for her. It was terrifying for her to think that she wasn't going to have me with her, that she was going to be alone. And so those 2 a.m. mornings were not uncommon. I would have to get up and go to school and pretend like everything was okay and laugh and eat in the lunchroom and go to algebra class and just pretend like life was normal. Nobody knew what was going on at home. And this is something that we learn to do. We learn to morph ourselves like chameleons. We learn to please the people around us so that we can hopefully be okay, so that we can get our needs met, so that we don't upset anybody, so that we don't appear that we have any needs. In fact, if we have needs, we feel like we're doing something wrong. And a lot of times when the other person is suffering, we have this survivor's guilt of how can I possibly have any needs if this other person is suffering so much. And so we try to save them by not burdening them with any of our problems. And so we hide and we disown ourselves and we push down and push away our desires and push away the discomfort that we're experiencing and tell ourselves that it's okay and that we really don't need anything because this other person needs us to be there for them more. And she used to call me up. She used to call me up and she used to say all kind of horrible things to me after I left home and I was in the Marines and I was on my own, and she would be drunk and she would say things and she would just be vile. And then the next day she would call me up and she would apologize and she would say, I'm sorry, I don't remember what I said, but I know that I called you and I can remember that I did that, and I apologize for anything that I said. And she just did it over and over and over again until one day I just said, this is enough. It's got to stop. It stops here. It stops with me. I was married. I had married young. I married at 19, and I was thinking about, well, if I have a family, I don't want this to perpetuate. I don't want my children to grow up with this. And so I broke ties with my mother, and I didn't talk to her ever again. And she died in 2019, and we had never spoken since that day. And that's something that I've come to terms with. I've forgiven her. I've forgiven myself. I've come to terms with all of that. But this is the type of stuff that can affect our relationships. It's the kind of stuff that in our formative years that influences the rules that we come up with, the operating instructions that we tell ourselves, the things that we say that we have to be and do in order to survive. And it's those operating instructions, those rules that we create for ourselves that keeps us stuck, because we haven't gone back to challenge them, to say, is that true? And does this serve me? And do I want to believe that? And do I want to live this way? And it's not until we do that our life begins to change. Otherwise, we're just going to experience the same thing, some version of the same thing over and over again, until we challenge our own thoughts, our own beliefs, our own rules for ourselves that we are agreeing to. Our life is going to continue to be the same. So I know you don't want that. I know you want to experience something different. That's why you're here watching this video. So I want to invite you to tell me your story. I want to invite you to have a phone call with me. Let's walk and talk for a little while, so to speak. And you tell me what's your beliefs, what your rules are, what is bothering you right now, and what you would like to be different. And I want to listen to your story, and I want to be able to ask you clarification questions for you, so that you can get clear about what it is that you believe, and so that you can make choices for yourself about how you want to live moving forward. I want to be able to share my insights with you, my journey, insights from the men that I coach with. I want to be able to point to resources so that you can surface your own answers for yourself, because this isn't about me telling you how to live. This is me helping you hear yourself for maybe the very first time, if ever, or maybe just in a long time, and also being able to help you get clear about who you want to be, where you want to go, what you want to do, what do you want to experience, who do you want to spend your time with. And I want to be able to walk and talk with you. And so there's a link in the description where you can click it, pick a day and time on my calendar that works best for you for a phone call. We'll talk for an hour. And that will be a transformational call where you won't be the same. You'll have already started the journey to something different. So click on that link, pick a day and time, schedule that call, let's talk. And until then, be kind to yourself, brother, and I'll talk to you soon.